All right, so although you may feel good right now, don't sleep on this message. Get yourself up off that chair. Go get tested.
Depending on the time that you are watching this, my name is Brother Shane Price. I'm no stranger to the airways, but it feels good for me to be back on with you. I represent an organization that I helped to co-found with my wife, Dr. Verna Cornelia Price, called The Power of People, Personal Development and Leadership Institute. It's a long name, but there's a lot of work involved. And so the organization itself is about 13 years old now. And most of the times, nonprofits have about 3 years, right, to develop sustainability. So I guess we're there, but it doesn't feel like it yet. We continue to fight to keep our doors open, to keep providing a quality service. The service I want to talk about today specifically is that part of us called Out and Poppin'. We work with men who are formerly offenders and now returnees and taxpayers and wage earners and fathers and excellent contributors to their communities. We want to talk to them now just a little bit to help you understand how their transition has gone for them. And then later in the program, we're going to dovetail a bit to talk a little bit about our health in the midst of what we're facing here nationally and internationally as a pandemic, and one that also, if you will, is attacking urban communities in a way that causes us to know that we've got to take this thing seriously and we've got to move this agenda along for ourselves, and that's the reason why we're here today. I'm going to introduce my panelists, my sons, who I love. I'm going to introduce them first, and then I'm going to have them share a little bit about themselves. To my right and to the left of your television screen is my son, Willie Lloyd. I'm going to come back. Willie is a teacher. He is a father. He is soon to be a husband. He has a part-time assignment of connecting people to the internet and the World Wide Web, and he's just excellent at that. To his left and to my right is my son, Tier Caldwell. Tier works with concrete. He's also an employee now of the Power of People. He is a father of 2. He is engaged to a beautiful bride from London, England. She's going to be watching this show, I'm sure, so we're just going to say hi to Sister Karen. She's going to be watching, I'm sure of it. But he is a taxpayer, a wage earner, and an excellent citizen who I'm very proud of. To my left and to the right of your screen is Brother Ananiah Israel. Ananiah is a son to me. We have been together for years. Ananiah works, he is a father, he is a husband-to-be, he is moving toward home ownership. Oh my goodness. Huh? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. He's moving toward home ownership, and he's also a machinist who works on developing precision-orientated metals, those that would be used by airplanes or airports or airlines or even NASA, and he's excellent at that. And, we referred him over there years ago, and then I hear they're asking us to find some more guys like him, right? I love that, right? So we're just going to talk a little bit about what it has meant to transition out of all of us, including myself. We've all made mistakes in our life. Maybe you're one too. So we're not going to dwell so much on that part. We're just going to confess that we're not perfect here, and but we've all made changes, and we're moving forward. Well, I'm going to start with Will over here, my son, Willie Earl Lloyd, and ask him, talk a bit about transitioning from prison into the community and what that was like for you, just personally, because I know it's different for everybody.
Yeah. Well, after, serving a couple of decades in prison, for me, the transition had to begin with me being willing to share my space.
Wow.
With my family. Being alone for so long, you kind of start to value your solitude. So when I came home, the biggest transition for me was to realize that, okay, I'm not alone anymore.
Right.
I'm not incarcerated anymore. And now I'm home with folks who love me and care about me. And now I need to open myself up and make room for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
that was probably the biggest transition for me. And of course, with that came a lot of support. The support I needed to just continue, making progress. So, now, just to bring everything forward, I've been teaching now for around almost 10 years.
Wow.
Almost 10 years.
And what are you
Almost.
teaching? What are you?
Okay. Yeah, I teach at a vocational school. I teach carpentry.
Right.
So, we teach adults from 18 years old and up on, how to build houses.
And Will, would you say that you learned any of those skills while you were serving your sentence?
Actually, I did. And, and I'm glad you asked, because I think that even in a negative environment, you can still get something out of it.
Right.
And although I was in a negative environment, I took advantage of, any opportunity to better myself.
Right.
And to kind of reposition myself for the kind of success I wanted down the road.
Absolutely.
So for me, the work began when I was incarcerated, not when I came home.
But Will, you have always made a point that has stuck with me, and I think it will continue to stick with me throughout. And that point is that that the prison didn't rehabilitate you. That rehabilitation was your personal responsibility, and you decided to take it.
Yeah, and you know what? And it is amazing to me how I have to convince so many people of that. So many people. You always hear the saying, prison saved my life, and it just for me it kind of makes me cringe, because I've done time with a lot of people who got worse after they went in, who did not make any effort to better themselves. After 15, 20, 30 years, they're even worse than they were when they came in.
Sure.
So if this was an absolute truth that just going to prison would make you better,
Right.
then everybody would be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so those of us who are better as a result of a conscientious decision,
Yes.
right, to make some changes in our lives that will, improve the quality of life. And that's what I did. You know, I took my life under my own control, and I started to make decisions that was in my own best interest. And it didn't change overnight, but you make enough positive decisions, and then after a while, your life just starts to build momentum.
Boy, you said that so well, and I'm so glad it was captured today on tape for those viewers. Now, if you're a DOC employee or Department of Corrections employee, I want you to hear this correctly, because we're not saying that you weren't doing your best or that you weren't trying to put some things forward for ex-offenders or for offenders. But what we're saying is that the decision to succeed, the decision to change, is still a personal one. And you took on that challenge, and it has paid off. I know you didn't mention this, but Will and his fiancee are just recent homeowners of a beautiful home that I'm sure if some of you saw it, you would want to live there too. And guess what? All you have to do is get your credit together, and you could live there. So we might be able to help you with that down the line. But I digress. Let me get back. But I want you to introduce you to my left. It's my son to my left, and your right. This is Brother Ananiah Israel. Ananiah, pick up on that whole notion of transition and see if you can put your unique perspective to it.
Oh, absolutely. Excuse me. Adonaiah Israel. I myself, I've scratched off 24 whole calendars myself.
Wow. My God.
So the transition for me, when I think about it, it was more of a mental thing. So being honest, you always have a bit of a fear about, what life is going to be like on the outside, having been gone for so long.
Right. Wow.
And I had that healthy fear, However, I didn't let that fear drag me around. I chose not to let that fear drag me around. I allowed that fear to kind of fuel me, just to kind of fuel and push me. Because the reality is that, and despite the fear, like, what do I have to lose?
Right.
By becoming who I am supposed to be in this world,
Wow.
And putting
what do I have to lose? That's a powerful
exactly.
comment.
What do I have to lose to be who I'm supposed to be in this world? And establish my position and leave something here on a positive note, despite what the occurrences of an earlier life of mine.
Absolutely. That's a point well made. Go ahead, Ed. I'm
sorry. So the transition, I just let that fear kind of like fuel me, So, and all of the tools that you so graciously blessed me with.
Wow.
I use them.
Wow.
I use those tools, and I readily use them today.
Right.
I look at my life now, almost 3 years later, out of prison, and I am moving towards home ownership.
Right. We're gonna give you some snaps. I don't mind. I'm giving you some snaps for that.
I'm in a beautiful relationship that it is a beautiful relationship that it took work.
Right.
But that was the beauty of it.
Right.
Because we worked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
Yes. So and I would have to kind of piggyback off of what Willie said. It started inside for me. It wasn't something I just thought of. The transition, the thinking about it, the creating the scenarios in your head about what life is going to be like on the outside. I did that inside. I made those decisions for myself on the inside. So I was prepared when I came out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not having the wind take you to and fro when you get out, not knowing what you're going to do because you did all of that lollygagging inside, and then coming home and thinking that everything is going to fall into place for you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that does make Will's point even more profoundly. I appreciate you catching it like that. But you make me think of something, and that is Power People Leadership Institute got into purchasing homes for these guys to come to if they needed it. And it was so amazing. We taught the personal development and leadership inside of 4 of the 8 Minnesota State Correctional Facilities for 15 years. And so what Ananias was alluding to was some of the teaching that had gone on inside. But it's Ananias' spirit, which I think you are capturing, that caused my wife and I to say, you know what, we got to make sure that he's got a place that he could come home to that's going to be safe and that's going to be supportive. And, as it turned out, you ended up moving to the Pop House.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, but I have to go back just a little bit.
Absolutely.
In 2013, I left the facility where I was being taught by the Power People Institute.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I left the Institute because I wanted to just get some more skills, working skills. So I went down to Moose Lake for the printing program.
Right.
And then I also worked in the warehouse, and so I learned a lot of shipping, handling, things of that nature.
Right.
I did that. So we were kind of out of contact for a while.
Right.
But we decided that we wanted to have the Power People Leadership Institute down in Moose Lake.
Right.
So we organized that and we started having the class down there.
Right.
It lasted for a little while, They're
I hear you.
they're their own kind down there.
Right.
So it's
things differently.
Yes. So after a few years passed and everything, and it was time for me to go home, right? So I reached out to Pop and said, "Hey, Pop, it's your son. I'm ready to come home."
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I want to come to the Pop House.
Sure.
And I want to take advantage of that opportunity that is there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, man. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it made really our investment, just your participation, made our investment worth it.
Yes.
Because we just wanted to be able to create a space for you to jump off from. And you've done an excellent job of moving forward with your life. And we're going to come back to that a little bit more. As a matter of fact, when you got ready to transition out of the Stillwater farm, I stayed abreast of what his status was. I contacted his agent and said, no sense of looking around for housing because Ann and I already have a place, and gave them the address and all that, and they had already heard a little bit about who we are as POP.
Yes.
We went in as some type of an alien force because we were African Americans doing work inside of prisons where so many African Americans are being held. Right? But by the time we finished our 15 years, there was a level of respect amongst all of the prisons and all of the officials and all of the guards who work in all of the prisons where Pop was a part.
We want you to join the Pop family where you will be accepted. But all who come must first embrace their manhood by having the courage to be tested.
But I'm a transition for a minute, if you don't mind, to talk to my son Tierre. Now, this is so amazing because my son Tierre came to me through my mother, who is passed now, and his mother, who is still with us and beautiful and doing well. But he lived across the street. His mom lived across the street from my mom. And so they would talk and visit, and they had a relationship. And my mom, she asked me if I knew Tierre, and she said, "Son, look here, look and see if you know this boy right here." And I looked right there. I said, "Mom, I don't know. no, I don't know him, never seen him before, this and that. And she said, well, that's Cece's boy. That's what she called your mother at that time. That was Cece's boy. And, I just wanted you to see if you knew him. I think she was actually trying to figure out what he was up to, and she figured I would have a drawing on him some kind of way, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mom's got a way of digging in and figuring out some stuff. In any event, I guess about a year or so later, Tierre got in trouble, God bless him, and his mother called my mother and said, Mrs. Jackson, that was my mom's name, is your son still doing that work inside a prison? And my mom said, yeah, he's doing it. And she said, well, can he get a hold of my boy, Tierre, and help him? And, this and that. And so my mom called me right away after the conversation. And she's like a no-nonsense person, my mother. So as soon as she got through with his mom, I could tell you, she called me instantly. As soon as the phone touched down, she called me instantly. And she said, Shane, that's how she could call me, right? You know how your mom can call your name a certain kind of way. I knew she wanted something right then. Shane, do you remember that boy I showed you out of the window that day? That's Tierre, Cece's boy. Shane, he's in trouble and he's in prison. I want you to go up there and find out where he's at and do what you can for him, Shane, and I'll talk to you later. Bow! Hung up the phone. And I'm thinking, my mother doesn't quite understand how prison works, and it's not as easy as all that, and there are a number of vicissitudes and nuances that go into making a contact like that. But let me see what I can do. Yeah. And so I just so happened I believe now this was God. I didn't know it then. I look on the roster to find out where this guy's at, and he's in Faribault, which at that time was our home prison and the place where our initiative got started 16 years ago. So he's at my home prison where we have a good relationship with staff. So I called up right after I located him, got him into the class. He didn't have to sign up. I put him in the class. And then that was, I can't remember how many years ago that was. He probably can tell you better than I can. But he's been with us ever since. I'll say that right there. So I did all of that to introduce my son, Tierre Caldwell. Tierre, talk a little bit about transition.
Wow, well, thank you for that. After such a strong statement. My transition for me, it absolutely started inside, but it didn't start inside the institution. It started inside here. I had to make a conscious decision to change my life. And then I began to slowly assemble all of the pieces that I knew that could contribute to that change. And the Power of People Leadership Institute was absolutely a major contributing factor. It was the catalyst that ignited my transition. And, it was difficult, but my transition was made kind of easier because the Power of People offered me a healing circle inside of the institution. Wow. And this was supposedly one of the worst periods in my life, but that support, that foundation, that accountability, that leadership, and just that instilling of hope in a whole environment full of hopelessness and powerlessness. And in my weakest hour, when I was feeling powerlessness, when I was feeling that feeling of powerlessness, here comes this slick dressed gentleman strolling through the prison, like he was modeling for GQ or something. Right. And he says, I'm with the power of people. Yeah. And here I am, been feeling so powerless. Right. And I'm like, I have to get involved with this. Right. I mean, he had like a purple glow around him, like a superhero. Then I get to the class, and it's like he's speaking directly to me And not only to me, but I can feel the vibration from everybody in the class around me. And, you know, it rocked me so much. I didn't walk away feeling like this was just another class. This was a lifestyle, this was a movement, and this was family. And I had never been a part of any organization that held me accountable, but still, I say it all the time, I never thought I could be a part of anything that was positive.
Wow, that's powerful.
And
what a comment.
still to this day, this is an organization that, you know, I bring my children. I mean, anybody. I mean, people come from all around, and I mean, it's just been so much of a blessing, and I'm just blessed that he was able to reach for me, and now I have the opportunity to actually reach for other people the same way that he reached for me.
And you're doing a good job at it. It's not an easy thing. And I was thinking today, I've never, as I've gotten into this work over the many years, I've never been able to do a good job of tooting my own horn or our horn as a organization. We're work orientated. My wife is the same. The work is first, second, and third, and whatever comes after that, we'll deal with it when it comes. But we're work orientated, and field labors in some ways, or we're getting it done. Hand to the plow type thing is somehow woven into our fabric, so we don't necessarily do a good promotion job. We're trying to do better, but thank you for sharing what you just shared, and I appreciate that in a heartfelt kind of way. And I think also the nuance here is that my mom, when I think of Tierra's progress, it reminds me of my own mother, and my mom has passed on, but I miss that girl. My mom was highly intelligent, extremely evil, and could mess around and just talk to you so bad it'd make you fall down here to the ground. But I needed that. That was like some tough love that I ultimately needed, and whatever that was she left in me has caused me to be strong enough to do whatever you see that we're talking about doing right now, and some more stuff we're not even talking about. So I just want to thank you all for sharing a little bit about yourselves. Your stories are important, and there's a lot more to them. We've abbreviated that because we're transitioning now in some ways to the real reason why we gathered today. And let me set that up for you if you've joined us late. We're talking with three men who have spent some time in incarceration, who have rehabilitated themselves, and who are law-abiding, tax-paying fathers and successful men, citizens right now in their communities. But what we're here to talk about today in some ways is how the pandemic, how COVID-19, how the introduction of a disease that is as crippling as that would slip into your transition from prison and indeed the lives of yourself and your children. And in that way, we just want to talk about the Power People Leadership Institute has gotten involved with the Minnesota State Department of Health, the Minneapolis Health Department, the Native American Community Clinic over on Franklin Avenue, 180 Degrees, which is a large transitional house in downtown Minneapolis, headed up by Mr. Tony Hunter, is a great leader and a friend who we know and appreciate. And today, I just want you all to talk a little bit about how has COVID altered your reentry process. And you can speak about that in any way you want to, from yourself, your significant others, or your children. But think a bit about, and was it frightening for you? Did you believe somehow that this would cut short your own transition. I'm going to let you jump in as you see fit.
I'll go. COVID for me, when it first happened, I thought I had a very suspicious aura about it. I'm not gonna lie at first, and then it was nights where if my body felt a little different, and I was like, I start panicking. I said, oh, maybe I have it. Maybe it's over, and But until I just got tested, and
Wow. And that test relieved it.
And once I got tested, it's like I just had a clear pathway, a clear runway. But when I think about all of the time I wasted not knowing and being so nervous of the unseen and just assuming you can do whatever type of preventative maintenance you want, but until you get the results, that's the determining factor.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, man. That's a good point. And I like what you said about the kind of anxiety that you felt over could a cough be COVID, where in the past a cough was just a cough.
And to be honest, around a lot of the people who I'm in contact with, they, including me for a while, we kind of looked at testing like, we don't want to get tested,
Right.
or implying that if we got tested, that meant we had it. And so
Powerful.
And
those are some old, ancient kind of African American suspicions that you're touching on right there, of our taboo of Europeans and what they up to, and let's just be honest,
Yeah.
And y'all are tricky. Now we ain't mad, but y'all can be tricky. You can. So thank you for saying that. Somebody else jump in and talk about it from their perspective.
Yeah, one of the problems with that is that, of course, we do have some historical atrocities that was done, as far as experimentation, and so that kind of helps to fuel, paranoia.
Yes, right.
Even when there's no one there, enemy there. In my case, I was like Tia. In the back of my mind, I think I was concerned. But I didn't I just kind of ignored that. I
Right.
kind of suppressed that.
Good, yeah.
Right? But I know it was there because when I finally got tested, I was always thinking about my results up until they came back. and so for me, that there confirms that, that I had a concern about it. I was, I didn't take it seriously initially. It took for me to, to see a lot of the statistics, with a lot of black folks dying from it.
Right.
And then people who are in my family that got really sick. I think that because I've managed, at least as far as I know, to avoid it myself, it kind of caused me to underestimate. But once it hit close to home, I at least acknowledge that it is a real potential threat.
Absolutely. And let me grab you there. And I like what Will is saying. And there are some historical reasons why we could be suspicious. And of course, when we heard that it was overtly impacting communities of color, brown people, and then also our elderly people of all racial ethnicities.
Yep.
And if you're watching this and you've had a loved one who was in a nursing home or any of that, our heart goes out to you or whoever you are, because a couple of times we had one of our guys who was in a nursing home having had some surgery, and that nursing home was almost barricaded in a way. We could not get in to support him and to let him know that he was loved. This is one of our own POP guys. And the nursing home in some ways had become a type of institution.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were concerned that he had passed and that we weren't getting the right information. But I can say more about that, but I want Ananiah to chime into this discussion. It's rich, and I appreciate it. Ananiah, you like you said, you did 20 years, and you know what that plus, and you know what it is to be gone, and then here comes Jabba the Hutt in the form of COVID-19, and you know this and that. How did that all impact you and your transition and your thinking about it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the key thing. It was my thinking. My thinking, I know, is what causes that anxiety, that fear. Mm-hmm. You know, about the thinking about failure, the thinking about loss, the thinking about letdown. When COVID hit, you know, I felt like, wow, this could be it right here.
Yeah, right.
You know, all this work could really just be for naught.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, you know, and it'd be kind of silly to think backwards, like, man, you know, being back inside would probably be safe. No,
Right.
because they bring it in there, you're trapped.
We're trapped.
And we've seen now
Amen.
the effects of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And important, and I'm going to jump in there, but just to say, for those listeners, you know, those institutions in some ways have been a hotbed because of the health care is, you know, is questionable, and it's the lack of quality health care that drives susceptibility to Jabba the Hutt, otherwise known as COVID-19.
Yeah.
And so this is what he is talking about. Go ahead and continue that thought.
Absolutely. You know, and of course, it's the thinking. So another form of the thinking is like, you know, this thing could be caught easily, like a cold.
Right.
Like a simple cold. Like sometimes I'm driving down the street with my window down, and I'm thinking to myself, if the guy in the car ahead of me has it and has his window down and he coughs and sneezes,
Interesting.
I'm gonna get you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just a thinking process.
You know,
So-
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's well, you know, wow. I'll tell you this. We have a Tuesday night reentry meeting. It's in Minneapolis, North Minneapolis. We've been at it for probably 10 years. It started out very small. Will, you can remember when we only had 3 or 4 people per Tuesday.
I do.
But the people kept coming, you know.
Yeah.
And so right now, don't be mad. We now host the largest reentry group in the state of Minnesota on a consistent basis every Tuesday night. And so we went to Zoom. When Jabba the Hutt hit, we went to Zoom to try to protect our individuals and ourselves.
Yeah.
But what we also knew, and Tier and I, you know, saw some of the men who would normally come started to fall off or have relapse or get into domestic issues or just things that they weren't getting into for long periods of time. And we realized, you know what? There's a part of who we are that's live and direct. That's Bob Marley's words. You know, live and direct. There's a part of us that makes us live and direct, and that piece it imposes the will of the group on your thinking in a way that makes that person a safer person and the society that he lives in to be a safer society. Is that right or wrong?
That's
right.
absolutely correct.
And so what we had to do, now you got to check this out. We said, listen, we can't stop meeting, but we got to be safe.
Yes.
And so we said, listen, we're going to test every one of our members, Power People Leadership Institute members, POP guys, that's what we call ourselves. We're going to test every one. And I put that out there, right, saying we're going to test every guy. 65 guys on our roster, 45 of that 65 come regularly, right? And so I put that on Tier's plate. Now, unknowingly, I didn't know I was giving him a directive, but I kind of just talked it out loud. But he picked it up and ran with it.
Yeah,
he found a
Yes,
provider.
he did. Yes.
I'm just going to mention that provider because they need to be mentioned, and that was Open Cities Health Center in St. Paul, just off of Dunlap Avenue over there, who just kind of partnered with Tier and got every single one of our guys tested, every one. And what Will is saying, and what Ananias is saying, and what Tier is saying, carrying that anxiety about not knowing, and we heard all this kind of, Billy Goat stuff. Man, I don't need to be, man, what you talking about? I ain't got nothing. I always stay healthy. There's never anything wrong with me. This was the fear.
Yeah.
A guy's afraid to be tested, not wanting to know if they have something.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Boy, I could go deeper on that, but I'm just going to leave it right here and tell you this. We tested all 45 of our core members, and we're still working on the final 15 or 20 of that group. And what we didn't know at that time is that we were creating a model. And that model, in some ways, was what we are currently using in our work with the Minnesota State Department of Health.
Yes, sir.
What we said to them is that we could utilize the model that we created in group
Yes.
to test other individuals who live in these reentry halfway houses all around the city of Minneapolis. And that's what this show is about today. If you're watching, you got somebody in one of these halfway houses, you need to get them on board and call the number that you're going to later see across your screen to get that individual tested. We have a test coming up, a testing event that we have organized with the Department of Health, with the city of Minneapolis, with 180 Degrees, a halfway house, with United Methodist Church over there, with the Native American Community Clinic. These are our partners in creating a testing site just for this unique community of ex-offenders, right? There are some people that you might feel like, if you're an ex-offender and you're listening to this, you might feel like you're afraid to go just because of your past. Well, it's because of your past that we want you to come to this testing event, because you're going to see people who look, sound, and act like you, but are getting tested to get the relief that Will described so well just a moment ago, is being able to relieve that anxiety, get over yourself and your issues, act like you know something, and get tested. And so I just want you to know, following the end of this show, the conclusion of this show, we're going to run a list of testing sites. If you're not a reentry client, we understand, we want you to get tested too, right?
Yes.
But for reentry people, we want you to know that on September the 26th, from noon to 3 p.m., this is going to be your time to get your question answered about whether or not you're carrying the Jabba the Hutt or COVID-19, and how you can go about the business of quarantine safely so that you don't give that to anybody else, and that you can develop a healthy immune system by self-quarantining. And we've had one or two guys that have had to do it and got themselves situated and are now healthy as all get out. And that can be your testimony too. So we're going to be wrapping up this show in a minute, but I want everybody to conclude, to offer a concluding statement, if you don't mind, to the audience here, whoever they might be, about getting tested?
Yeah, I'll start off. I want to say this. So imagine I'm doing 20 years in prison. I have loved ones and family who supported me every year of my incarceration.
Wow.
People who I owe, you know, my probably my very existence to. Okay, I come home, and the first act of love that I can return to them for the support they gave me is to get tested, so I don't become a threat to the very people who have demonstrated, you know, undying love and support and for me for the past 20, 30 years of my life.
Wow.
Okay, so for me personally, I see it being tested as an act of self-love, you know, and
My goodness.
you know, and a appreciation, and as a man, being the vanguard and protector of my family. I take that responsibility seriously.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so the first thing I have to protect them from is not someone, a stranger who coming off the street, but me who could potentially be bringing something devastating in the household.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so I take that seriously. Okay, so I got tested, right? Not because necessarily I thought I might have had it, but because I can't play Russian roulette or gamble with the lives of those who I love.
Let me stop you right there. That is so good.
it
That's
is
so
good.
good. I
Yeah.
just got to give you some
It
proper.
is good.
Jump in there, somebody, whoever wants to, and follow.
I just want to, I think about all of those individuals who like are homeless. You know, we were delivering papers on the weekends.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I've come across people who I found like sleeping in corners, Pop.
Wow.
And it's just devastating. So it's like, I think about those individuals who are out there like that, you know what I mean? And they are just so vulnerable. But it's not just that they're vulnerable, but now because they're vulnerable, they make anybody and everyone who comes in contact with them vulnerable. You know what I mean? So it's like, what is being done to address that homelessness? What is being done to address all those people who are just out there, you know, during this pandemic?
Absolutely.
I think about that. So it's like I'm going out there, and it's like I will say it's like I'm the breadwinner. I'm the one who goes out and work, and I'm the one who is it was around a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So I have to be like uber careful.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know?
There you go.
So I wear a mask and rubber gloves most of the time. You know, yeah.
Wow.
And so I mean, I would say to anyone who is listening, you know, it's real.
It's
Don't kid yourself.
real. That's right.
This thing is real.
My son said
right.
you need to be uber careful.
Uber careful.
I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, son.
Yes, sir. I just want to say to everybody who's been impacted by the criminal justice system, or whether you serve people who have been impacted by the criminal justice system, I know personally what it feels like to feel like nobody cares. I know what it feels like to live with the paranoia, with the stigma, with the uncertainty of getting tested. We're telling you your health matters. Your life matters. Whether or not anyone around you tells you, I'm telling you today, take this serious, take your life serious, because health is the true wealth. This isn't a game. We've had so many people pass away from this, people on the street, people famous. This is not a game. And we're telling you, we've got tested, and you know, testing is cool. It's the cool thing to do.
Absolutely.
I like it. Testing is cool. You got that from Cece's boy. But watch this. Watch
That's
this.
right.
He's also our testing coordinator.
Right.
So if you were to pick up the phone and call 763-535-5711, and you ask for Cece's boy, better known as Tierra Caldwell. He could help you situate a testing site that's close to you and or connect you to our site on September the 26th on Saturday from noon to 3 p.m. at the United Methodist Church's parking lot. That's off of East Hennepin, Hennepin Avenue over there. We're going to wrap this particular show up, but before we do, I want to give some shouts again to Mr. Tony Hunter, who is a new director over at 180 Degrees, a large halfway house in the Twin Cities. Wow, we appreciate him because he gets it. And he stepped up right away and said, you know, Brother Shane, we want to partner with you and get all of our men and our staff tested on September the 26th at one time. And that was amazing, and we appreciate that. And if you manage a halfway house out there and you want to get connected to what we're doing and what we're talking about, this is a population that has gone underserved. Nobody was trying to do it. We're not blaming, but we're just trying to pick up the pieces and cause this thing to work together for the good. So if you're listening, we implore you, right? We're pleading with you to take a step, take an action step, as my wife would say. Call the number on your screen. We're also offering you a list of testing sites that you'll see at the end of the show here that will give you more information. I'm going to give you the number again, 763-535-5711. That's the office line to the Power of People, Personal Development and Leadership Institute, our baby. And ask for Cece's boy, Tierra Caldwell. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be safe out there. We got nothing but love for you, but mess around here and get tested. Get tested on 3123.
Get tested.
Well, I finally got married, and my wife is the best. So I decided I don't want no mess. I had to get over my issues, and I got the test. What are you going to do?
How you guys doing? My name is Tierra Caldwell with the Power of People Leadership Institute. I'm here with two of my lovely young sons. This is King Mason Caldwell, and this is Jasir Robinson Bailey. So how are you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm good.
So what we're here gathered today to talk about is how COVID-19 has affected you guys, specifically in school. I mean, let's just start there. How has COVID-19 changed the way that you guys go to school? Whoever wants.
It's cool, honestly. I just wake up, start my computer, and then I go to school. The only thing I don't know is trying to get everything done in a day, because you have to do the first day nothing, but the second day you got to get started, do everything done in one day. I mean, it's pretty easy, but you gotta come. My mom had to call the teacher and tell her I couldn't do this stuff today because I had an appointment and I had to do all this, and it was hard because I couldn't finish it today because it was already done. But we have a long break in the middle, so that's good. You can take that time to either like do the rest of the stuff, or if you're done, you can leave it just like that.
Good. What about you, Jasir?
It's been good so far, but I know it's gonna get harder, cause the first time it was all over the place. We had to do like a lot of work in a day, including and they would just throw us work. But I think it's gonna get better. I'm getting used to it, and it has affected school, like sports and stuff. Yeah.
So, what do you say to people who think that COVID-19 is a joke. I mean, would you say that this is something serious?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why would you say that?
because people can get sick and die.
Speak up, son. I can't hear you.
Because people can get sick and die.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you guys regularly, what do you guys do to try to help not catch the COVID-19 virus? What are some things that you guys do as children to protect yourselves?
Stay home, wash your hands.
I'm not around people as much as I used to be. Not going places like I used to. Staying home.
Do you guys wear masks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
Okay. Do you guys use sanitizer?
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
About how many bottles of sanitizer would you say
like
you guys
20,
been through?
like 200
87.
gallons. Well, 'cause it is.
Yeah, and you know, I have to say myself, I'm proud of how serious you guys have taken this epidemic because, you know, COVID-19 has affected all of us, but it's really affected you guys because you guys have to go to school and get your education in the middle of a pandemic. And it's not easy, but, you know, you guys have absolutely been very helpful with sanitizing and with masks and with quarantining. And so what would you say to any kids out there who think that COVID-19 is just a joke?
Wash your hands and stay in the house.
I would say it's not a joke. You shouldn't be playing with it.
Speak up.
I would be saying it's not a joke. Don't play around with it. Like, die.
Yeah. And you know, and wow, I couldn't have said it more better. And to any children out there who think that COVID-19 is a joke, you have to do what?
Wash your hands.
And what else?
Stay in the house.
And wear a mask, no matter what. I appreciate you guys' time. Again, this is Tierra Caldwell from the Power of People Leadership Institute with my son, King Mason, and my son, Jasir. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day. Ain't nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with you? I don't got COVID-19. Why you stressing? You'll never know until you get tested.